Hi everyone, it's Dr. Monica Mora here, ready to talk about positive parenting, all things positive parenting with you today. We've got our regular format. I will be asking you to share some wins, some parenting wins that you've had over the course of the week. Hopefully you've been thinking about some and you can share some in the comments below. That's really great. And then we'll just do a quick review of what we covered last week, and then I'm going to jump into the topic today, which is going to be the 5 principles of positive parenting. So, parenting wins. What can I share with you for parenting wins today? Or, yeah, let's see, for the week. I think what a parenting win I will say is getting my two. So, I've got a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. I shared that with you before. And we've got some house projects we've been working on, and that's not the favorite thing for my kids to do. They're great. We do a lot of projects together, but I tend to have a lot of projects for our family, and they're not always really on board with them. So a parenting win for me was that these guys just jumped right in this weekend and helped us put a front fence in our yard, and it was hard work. But they did it. They got right in there and helped. They didn't complain, and so that's a parenting win for me. Maybe being in the house and just wanting to get out into the great weather we had was a motivator, but I will share that as a parenting win for sure. So again, please make sure that you reflect a little bit on your parenting wins. Remember, they can be small wins, medium wins, big wins, whatever they are. They can be that, hey, I held it together. I got dinner on the table 3 nights out of the 7 of the week. Or you know what, I let dinner go and I ordered out. Whatever it is, whatever you define as a parenting win, we really just want to start recognizing and celebrating those, because it's really easy to get stuck in what's not working or highlight the negatives in our opinion. And so really try to shift that and start focusing on and celebrating the hard work that you're doing, the wins that you're having. So I sound like a broken record every week I tell you this, and every week I'm going to continue to tell you this, because it really is just a human being shift that we need to do, and train ourselves to really move away from the negative, recognizing the negative, which is so natural, and recognizing the positive become a bit more natural instead. So that's that. So in terms of a review, what we spent a lot of time talking about last week was the idea, the concept, the strategy of timeout. And we did discuss how timeout has sort of a negative connotation to it. And it does because for a lot of us, timeout, as we understood it, was used sort of as a punishment. So under the guise of discipline, it was used sort of as a punitive measure. And when timeouts are used as a punitive measure, when they're used when we are in anger, and so we're using it in a kind of a gruff, frustrated, agitated way, when we use it for everything, so that is our go-to parenting strategy. When we threaten to use it, when we use it and we put our children in timeouts for too long, all of these ways of using timeout are not effective, and when used in those ways can be harmful, right? It can backfire and we end up not getting the behavior that we want. But when we shift looking at timeouts as more about helping our children learn really necessary, critical life skill of emotional self-regulation, and we use it in different ways. We use it in a calm way when we explain to our children ahead of time what it is. It's a way to help them learn how to calm their body, to get their emotions kind of in a little bit more under control, so that then we can talk about the feelings, or we can move forward in the feelings, and we can problem solve or work through it in a more positive or productive way. That's when the idea behind timeout is more beneficial and more healthy and is not harmful to our children. But because a lot of parents have used timeouts before, have heard about timeouts before, the label of timeout can be off-putting. And so my suggestion was think about some of the conversation we had around timeouts, how you can change them to be, again, more in line with the positive parenting approach that we're talking about, and then just change it to a phrase or a title that suits you and your family. So calming down time, taking a break time, taking a moment time, whatever it is, whatever seems to fit for you, and move away from the more punitive style of timeouts. So I think that's pretty much all the review I've got for you around that. And so I'd like to move now into the 5 positive parenting strategies. So these 5 positive parenting strategies stem from the Triple P positive parenting program out of the University of Queensland in Australia. So that is the program that I am an accredited trainer and accredited provider for. And that's where all of kind of my information comes from, in addition to my own experience and my experience as a clinical psychologist, being in the field for over 2 decades. And so the 5 principles of positive parenting through the Triple P lens, and more importantly, through looking at the lens of applying these 5 positive parenting strategies during the time of quarantine, is really kind of what I want to talk about. So, and just as a, kind of a background information, these 5 strategies I'm going to share with you right now really are sort of the foundation of the positive parenting program in terms of the strategies that I've been talking to you about, some of the concepts around parenting, and some of the ideas. This is where it comes from, and you'll recognize as I go through these with you bits and pieces that we've been talking about through over the course of the weeks that we've been together. So the first one I want to share with you is the principle of having a safe and interesting environment for your children. So that's principle number 1, safe and interesting environment. Now, what that looks like, or how Triple P envisions it, is that we want to be able to keep kids safe, right? So kind of know where they are, who they're with, what they're doing, within reason, right? And so within your home, it's about making sure that there are safe spaces, that things that are that can be dangerous to children are put away, those kinds of things. But the other piece of that, the interesting environment piece, is about having things available for your children. So we're not talking about having the latest and greatest toys or having to buy a lot of things to keep your kids engaged. What we're talking about here is that just giving them lots of opportunities and I guess availability to explore their environment, to be creative, to build things, to ask questions, to create. Did I say create already? I might have said create already. To discover, right? If you have a yard space, or and they can go out and discover and dig in the dirt, or apply some of the Raising Rookie activities and discover what their bodies can do, or create some beautiful artwork that we've been learning on the Too Cool for School site, those kinds of things, right? Just giving them lots of opportunities and exposure to things like that. Now, some of that requires a little bit of planning ahead, right? So making sure that you've got some things ready for them, so that you can keep them engaged. Now, we're not talking about making sure that their day is filled with activities from start to finish. Again, I think I've mentioned to you before that there is a benefit of having some downtime and some bored time so that they can learn what to do when they're bored. And honestly, some of the best creative games that kids can develop come from when they say they're bored. But just, again, having some things ready, some paper, some crayons, some puzzles, some games, some shovels, some water play stuff, whatever it can be, some pots and pans, do cooking projects, whatever you can think of, or if you can't think of anything, utilizing your resources like the Too Cool for School Facebook page, or Pinterest, or whatever, or talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your children's classmates' parents, things like that, where you can get some ideas. So you're just creating a safe and interesting environment. Now, the benefit of that is that your children they're engaged, right? They're stimulated, they're busy, they're doing things. And so there's less opportunity for misbehavior. Now, misbehavior may show up, right? If they're working together and having to navigate a project together or an activity together, you may get some misbehavior, but that's okay. But when a child is bored because they have nothing to do and all day long, right? The only thing that we're using is screen time or something like that. There's more opportunity for misbehavior, or behavior that we don't want to come up. So again, having a safe and engaged environment there for them helps reduce the likelihood that we might get some problem behavior. And with the more that you can sort of plan ahead and have some things ready and available for them, the more relaxed you can be in your parenting. And then, of course, the less negative behavior or misbehavior that you get also kind of contributes to your sense of being a little bit more relaxed and comfortable in parenting during this time specifically. Now, that's, like I said, during a normal life, we would still have parents think about times during the day where we might be able to plan ahead for certain activities or certain things for kids to do. During quarantine, though, right, you're home 24/7 for the most part. Here in Washington State, our parks and our trails have reopened, so that gives us another activity to do with our children. But for some of you, that might not be the case, and so still we don't know what's going to happen in the future. This is still a day-by-day situation, so just being in this space where you can still be more relaxed as we take this day by day by thinking ahead and thinking about what are some things I can get ready and have ready in case there's behavior that I need to deal with. I need to pull something out quickly. So that is the first principle there. The second principle we have is the positive learning environment. So this kind of goes hand in hand with that first one of a safe, engaged environment there. But positive learning environment is really kind of taking opportunities as they come up throughout the day, throughout the week, to help your children learn. Just have the idea of learning things. So learning a skill, learning a new word, learning a new concept, learning a new idea, learning a new task, those kinds of things. And so it usually comes up naturally, but we want parents to just keep that principle in mind, a positive learning environment. So as you go throughout your day, you just seize opportunities as they come up. So for example, if your child may be working on a project for school, or they might be reading something and they can't pronounce a word, instead of just jumping in and finding the answer for them or giving the answer for them or telling them what the word is, we just slow down a little bit and take the opportunity to, for example, prompt them and let them figure out the answer, right? Help them figure out, where might you find the answer? Or here, let's sound it out together. What's this letter make and what's this letter make? That kind of thing. Or if they can't find something, let's say they're looking for a particular book that they need, and they don't know where it is. They don't remember where they put it. Using that opportunity to sort of coach them, right? And say, well, where's the last time you saw it? Where have you looked? Where do you normally put your books? Can you remember where is the last time that you saw it? So those kinds of things. We're trying to help them learn problem solving. So under this principle of positive learning environment, we're really trying to encourage them to try new things, do things for themselves, figure out problems, be curious about certain things. We're just using our everyday life, different things that pop up during our everyday life as learning opportunities for our children. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that your whole, everything you do during your day has to be a learning a learning, endeavor. It just means that throughout the day, you choose some things here and there where you can, again, use it to help your child develop, right? Not everything. You don't have time for that. I don't know who does, where you have to, every single thing that comes up, you're going to take it as a teachable moment. If you do, hats off to you, but I know that most of us don't. But the flip side of that is you also don't want to just rush through your day and do everything for your child. Because again, that's a lot of pressure for you as a parent. That's a lot for you to have on your shoulders. But also, it does not give our child the opportunity to develop and to develop these skills and that kind of thing. So that's what a principle number 2 is. Now, in terms of for quarantine, there's lots of opportunity. Your kids are home with you all the time, and so it can seem like it'd be stressful to have to do that with your children, but really the reality of it is, the more that you can equip your children with these skills and help them develop it, it takes off things from your plate, right? It also helps with their self-esteem and the value that they feel in what they're able to do, right? To be a helper, I can do this by myself and I can help mom or dad this way. So at first it might seem a little bit stressful and it might seem easier to just do things yourself. But again, remember, we're looking long term. How can this benefit your child, and how will this benefit you? And how will it benefit the family as a whole, right? Okay, so principle number 3 is using assertive discipline. Now, we've spoke a little bit about this idea of assertive discipline in the last few weeks that we've been together. But what I mean by assertive discipline is that, we want our children to develop into their own little individual humans that they are, right? We're not trying to make them mini versions of ourselves. That's not it. We want them to be their own unique human individual here. But at the same time that we're respecting that individuality, we can also expect for them to behave appropriately. And we can also expect that they can learn how to behave appropriately with our guidance. And that's where that assertive discipline comes into play here. And so by assertive discipline, really what we're meaning is acting quickly, acting decisively, acting calmly, and acting consistently. Okay, those are sort of the 4 main ideas around the idea of assertive discipline. And so acting quickly just means when you see a problem behavior, when you see something coming up, don't wait until it escalates into something bigger. Get in there and deal with it right away. Don't think, oh, it's just a bad day, they'll get over it. Nope, get in there and deal with that right away. The decisive piece is make a decision about how you want to respond right away. So get in quickly, make that decision, and follow it through. Stay calm in your approach, right? So if you need, as you're looking at the situation, you see that it's, you can see what's bubbling, take your moment to take a couple deep breaths and then go in with your calm self and put in place whatever strategy you're going to choose to deal with that behavior. Now, the consistent part is make sure that you try to respond the same way for a particular behavior always. And so what I mean by that is, let's say your child is struggling with hitting right now, right? Or using a rough touch when he's with people or when he's with his siblings or something like that. You want to make sure that whenever you see that, you quickly get in there, you calmly get in there, and you give him the same message or her the same message every single time. Okay, for instance, it can be to remind them, hey, remember, how are we supposed to use our body? How do we touch other people, right? And that message is continually sent to them. You're consistent in your message, right? In order to help children learn the most effectively, we have to be consistent in what we do, right? We can't ignore it one day and then get in there and make it something that they're going to have a consequence about the next day. That's very confusing. That inconsistency actually doesn't help the situation at all, and it makes it more difficult for them to learn, and then we feel like it's not working, right? The strategy we're doing isn't working. It's not necessarily the strategy we're using, it's the fact that we're not consistent in the strategy that we're using. Okay, so that's really what we mean by using assertive discipline here. Okay. And then the fourth one is realistic expectations. Okay. Now, realistic expectation. Oh, sorry. Let me back up a minute to assertive discipline, just with that layer of quarantine life put on top of it. So, dealing with children's behaviors is can already be challenging for us to keep calm, especially certain behaviors. But with quarantine life, when we're under the same roof 24/7, when I don't know, when you haven't been getting enough sleep, or maybe it's a day where they're so active and there's so much going on that it's harder for you to stay calm. It just puts an additional layer of stress on the parents, right? And so that additional layer of stress just is makes it a little bit more challenging for us to keep our calm, right? To deal with things in a calm way. So just know that there might be some times where you don't keep your calm, where you do lose your cool, or where things tend to get to you a little bit easier than maybe they wouldn't if your child had been at school all day, something like that. Just noticing it, right? Noticing that, hey, today I kind of lost my cool a bit. And I did it because I think I went to bed really late and I didn't get enough sleep. Then that's a way to. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. My daughter's bird is making all these weird noises. It's distracting me. But anyway, that additional layer of being stressed out because of quarantine and not knowing what's going to happen and the uncertainty just can make it a little bit more difficult for you to stay calm and to stay cool. So if you do happen to lose it, don't beat yourself up about it. Just recognize it and then reflect back on it about, like, what could I do tomorrow, or what can I do next time the situation comes up to really help myself be more effective in my parenting and stay calm. Okay. So the fourth principle is realistic expectations, as I mentioned. Now, this applies to ourselves, having realistic expectations for ourselves, and having realistic expectations for our children. All children are different, right? They all have different temperaments, they all have different personalities, they all have different wants and likes and needs. And we as parents also, right? We're all different, and we are going to be different with each child depending on that child's temperament and personality. Okay. And I know a lot of parents say, well, I do the same thing with this child as I do with all my children, right? I understand what you're saying, and I understand that you may use the same types of strategies with all your children. Yes, but you just naturally are a different parent because your personality and the personality of one child, that combination is very different than your personality and the personality of another child. Okay? It's not good or bad, it just is. Okay, and it's just something that we need to pay attention to and recognize so that we know, when I do this with this child, this is the way it works, and when I do it this way, it works this way with this other child, right? So does that make sense? So realistic expectations really are keeping in mind that what you expect from your child is realistic depending on the age of the child, the developmental abilities of that child, the personality of that child, and then also during quarantine, given the situation of what's going on. Okay, so maybe regularly in a normal life, you could expect for your child to go off to school every single day and then come home in the afternoon and behave a certain way because they've got a lot of energy out during the school day. But now that they're home, right, they seem to be bouncing all over the walls, and there never is a time where they're just calmer in their energy. Well, that again, realistic expectations given our situation, our current situation, and recognizing how it might be different now, right? That just helps you respond from a more informed place. Or another thing could be, I just had it in my head, I might have lost it. Oh darn, I think I lost my example. It was a good one though. If I remember it, I'll share it with you. So the flip side, though, is for yourself. So maybe having realistic expectations for yourself. Um, we all want to do right by our children. We all want to try and be the best parents that we can possibly be. That's fantastic. That's amazing. Our hearts are in the right place. But we also have to know that sometimes, like, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have our good days, but we're all going to have our rough days, right? Our bad days. And so, not to beat yourself up when you have those days and not to stay in that place. So don't expect too much from yourself, but also don't expect too little either, right? So have a realistic expectation for yourself each and every day. You may need to reevaluate it. Today I feel like this, and this is where my expectation is for myself today. Tomorrow it may be somewhere else, right? And so that's part of why I ask you to celebrate your wins every week, is because if you're feeling like you're failing, if you feel like every day during this, especially during this quarantine life, is a struggle for you, if you keep focusing on the struggle, your expectation for yourself, right, and how you're going to respond, what does it do, right? It goes down. And so, and not only your expectation for yourself, but your expectation for your children, your expectation for your life and for your day, right? And that doesn't feel good for you to stay in that place all the time. So celebrating your wins for you, celebrating your wins for your children, reevaluating what your expectations are for you, for your child, for life, for your day, every single day, right? And just paying attention to that. Okay. Let's see, what did I have here? Now I know that I mentioned making sure that what you're expecting from your child is developmentally appropriate. And if you're not sure what is developmentally appropriate for your child, then you've got a couple options. You can, I have a hair in my eye, guys, sorry. You can look online if you'd like. You can call your pediatrician. You can ask your child's teacher. You can send them an email. You can ask friends. You can ask neighbors. You can get information from a lot of different areas. But when you get that information, I would suggest that you make sure that you look at it through the lens of looking at your child as an individual. So just because the teacher or the pediatrician or your neighbor says that at age 5 all children should be doing this, okay, that's just, there's a continuum of child development, okay? And so most 5-year-olds, right, there's a continuum of what they can do, right? And our children are going to fall on different parts of that continuum, okay? And again, it's not good or bad. It's just we need to be able to know that our child, we're not going to measure what they're doing by everybody else. We're just going to say, okay, a 5-year-old probably should be around this in terms of their, of this particular behavior. And my child is here. And that just gives you a good idea about what you can be expecting from your child. And then if you feel like they have the capacity to do a little bit more, then you can put some things in place to help them grow a little bit more. But again, remember, this is just for you to kind of get an idea of if what you're expecting from your child behaviorally, emotionally, academically is reasonable, okay? Is reasonable. So that you're not expecting too much from them and you're also not expecting too little, okay? So that's what we mean by realistic expectations. And finally, this is something that I popped into our comment or our posted on our Too Cool for School site. The 5th one is taking care of yourself as a parent. Now, I really feel like maybe we should pop this to be number 1, but basically, taking care of yourself as a parent, that if we're not making time to, when I say taking care of yourself, it's health-wise, it's emotion-wise, but it's just, again, filling yourself up, right? So we all human beings have needs for connection, have needs for doing something that they enjoy, having an outlet of something that can help de-stress, or again, bring, like I said, bring them joy that is separate from your children, okay? And just because you want to take some time, let's say, to paint or to read a book or to go on a walk by yourself doesn't mean that you don't love your children, okay? It doesn't. It's natural, it's human, and it's necessary, okay? Parenting is easier when our needs are met. So connection with friends and family, connections with your partner if you have a partner. Like I said, doing activities or things that that feed you. Taking time just for ourselves. Now, this is easier said than done. I know it. It's, for me, honestly, one of the hardest things of all these principles for me is making sure that I am taking time to care for myself. And why? Because as parents, there's a million things we have to do. And in quarantine life, that's magnified, right? So making sure everyone else eats healthy, but then I might just grab something quick, right? Or making sure everybody's getting proper rest, but then I might be up late and not get sufficient sleep during the night, right? Or making sure kids have outside time, a balance between screen time and outside time and creative time, but yet I might not take that time to go on a walk myself, right? So this is what I'm talking about. As parents, we tend to kind of always put others' needs in front of ours. I understand that. It's natural to want to feel that way. But honestly, we cannot pour from an empty cup. That's one of my favorite ways of looking at this, right? If you have the teapot, right, and it's empty, you can't fill up all of your individual family members' cups, right? If you don't have anything left to give. So you have to give to yourself first so that you can give to others, right? And I know that this is, like I said, it's easier said than done. I know it's really, really hard, but it's not an option, to be honest with you. It is not optional. It's absolutely necessary. And you'll find that there are so many benefits to this, not just from, again, being able to parent from a place of being calmer, being more patient, not having things get to you as much, but you're also modeling for your children the necessity to take care of yourself. This is something that they're going to see you do and something that they will begin to develop for themselves so that when they get older and when they get to be parents, they do this. Right? It's a natural skill that they have, right? So incredibly beneficial here. Now, given the situation, what's that going to look like? So maybe before, your self-care time was when they were at school, or maybe your self-care time was when you were commuting home from work. That time in the car was your time to maybe call someone, to connect with someone, a book on tape, or listen to music that you liked, right? Or maybe you had a once a week coffee date with some of your girlfriends or something like that, or you belong to a softball club or something like that. Now it looks different, okay? So we just have to readjust a bit until we can get back to that way. But in the meantime, that doesn't mean that we don't do things to feed ourselves, right? That means we just have to figure out a new way of doing that, right? I know that in some of the posts that we've had on the Too Cool for School site, we talked a little bit tongue-in-cheek about moms sitting in the car and having a good cry, or doing a phone call in the car, or doing a video chat in the car, or an office meeting. Use it if it works, right? If that's a moment for you. So just getting creative there. Okay, so I think that was a lot of information. I'm noticing the time. We're past time there. And I went through it fairly quickly, but I hope it's giving you some food for thought as you move forward again into the next week and the coming weeks, and even into the summer. I'd be happy to hear what you all think about this. If you have any ideas about any of these principles, how you might apply them. If you've got questions, please feel free to put those in the comments. I'll be checking them throughout the week, and I'd just love to hear from you. So hope all is well, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.